Hi, good afternoon everyone. My name is Sam from Net Registry and I'm going to be conducting the webinar on pay-per-click advertising. This is the second webinar that we are conducting as a part of a Net Registry's effort to help small businesses understand how to grow their business online. Before I start the webinar, I just want to do a quick check to see whether everyone can listen to my voice. Is my voice clear enough? Wonderful. So let's get started. Today's topic is something which is more got to do with paid advertising as compared to the first topic where we talked about search engine optimization. And a lot of things have changed in the last couple of years, and it's quite interesting to see why pay-per-click advertising is getting more and more popular. In the next 60 minutes, what I'm going to be trying to cover is more about why does pay-per-click really work, and is it suitable for your business? If you plan to do pay-per-click advertising on your own, what are the things that you need to do? I'm going to share a couple of tools with you guys today so that you can go back and maybe test it for yourself to see whether it works for business or not. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. If possible, I will try to address it as I go along with the presentation, or maybe I can answer them at the end of the presentation. Last time when we did the first webinar, there were a couple of requests for recording the webinar, so which I've kind of organized it this time. So if you for some reason need to step out of the webinar, you can always come back to us in 2 days time and we can provide you a link to this webinar. I'll be also, if you need a copy of the webinar PowerPoint presentation, you can always shoot me an email and I can send a copy of that as well. So let's get started. Okay, so let's try to understand, why do you really look at search engine advertising? Now, what's important for most businesses today is that you need to drive people to your website. Just consider your website just like a retail store. If people do not walk into your store, no one is going to buy from you. So it's really important that you get people coming to your website, and it's just not any kind of online visitors. You want to get qualified visitors coming onto your website. Okay, and even if they come to your website, if they don't take any action on your website, it's a total waste of time. Okay, I've been doing search engine optimization for the last 8 to 10 years, and believe me, I was not a great fan of Google AdWords myself. But in the last couple of years, things have changed, and it's kind of made me believe that for some industries, search engine optimization or coming up in organic pages is excellent, but for some industries, Google AdWords or pay-per-click advertising can really work much better. So what you're going to achieve today is get an understanding about what is the entire fuss about pay-per-click. Why is it getting popular? Is it suitable for your business? If it is suitable for your business, what are the things that you need to do to make sure that you get better return of investment? Now, before I get into the webinar in more in detail, let me just throw a quick question across to you guys and find out what do you think about pay-per-click. So I'll just throw in a quick opinion poll. Yes, if anyone wants a copy of the slides, just email it to me. Send me an email and I'll send you a copy of the slides. My email address would be at the end of the presentation, or if you don't plan to stick around till the end of the presentation, I'll just type my email address. Okay, so what do you think, when you do an online purchase, what actually drives you to do an online purchase? I think we've changed the way we shop around. We like to go and do our research online. We like to shop online because we're looking out for better prices, or we're looking out for better support and so on. So for most businesses today, having a website is just not a part of their online strategy. It's more about using a website as a sales resource. Okay, now this gives me a good understanding that most of you people in this room understand that when it comes to business, it's all about not only about price, but it's practically about all the factors put together: better support, easy buying process, better features, and so on. Imagine, if you go to shop online and if it takes a long time for you to complete the process, there's a strong chance that, you might drop off from the process. And that's quite common today. We're becoming extremely impatient. What also is happening is that the number of websites that we look at is reducing drastically. Maybe 3-4 years back, we would look at 5 or 6 different websites before sending an inquiry to someone else, to some website. Today we don't do that. We look at maybe 2 or 3 websites. If we do not like what we see as a part of the search result, we literally go and change what we are searching for. So it's really important is that when someone is searching for a product or a service online, they get the right message. And I think that's where the entire concept of pay-per-click is making a lot of difference. What also is interesting is to have a look at the amount of people actually research online. And I think it's quite common. If you want to buy something, you literally would go online, do your research before even picking up the phone or walking into a retail store. And this is quite common. It's like you go online, you do your research, and based on what results you get, you're more likely to take a decision. We've changed the way we shop. Earlier we would go and ask our friends and family, where should I go and buy a wedding dress or whatever. Now we don't do that. We actually go online. We go onto Google, search for wedding dresses online. We look at images, we look at testimonials, we look at product reviews, and then finally based on that we take a decision whom we should call up. We do not send an inquiry to every website that we go onto. We might go to 10 websites and only send inquiry to 2 of them. So as a business owner, it's really important that you drive the right kind of traffic to your website, and at the same time you give the right kind of message. Just compare your business like your retail business. If you do not have a good display at your window, people are not going to come and actually see what's happening, because what really happens is that you need to walk into a store to see, do you have the right kind of products or not. If you do not have the right kind of products, you're more likely to say, I've come to the wrong place. So just consider your online business as someone doing window shopping, and that's what we do actually. We go onto Google, we do a research, we look at the first couple of seconds. If you like what we see, we spend more time on the website, or we hit the back button and go somewhere else. What also is important is that we not only shop online, a large amount of people actually go, after they make a purchase, they like to go and share their response online in terms of product reviews, or put comments about whether it was a good experience or bad experience and so on. So your website is not only the first stage of getting a customer on board, it also acts as a post-sale kind of system as well. So if you have a product, and if you're sending your products online, and you know that the kind of feedback you get from your customer is positive, you must actually give an option for all your customers to able to post a comment, so that will help you to convince your future customers. Because a lot of times when you're planning a trip overseas, or you're planning to rent an apartment or a hotel, most of the time people look at the reviews from other people who use that service. So it's really important that you get the right kind of people, and at the same time understand how people react to your website. What also is quite interesting is that every business has got a different life cycle. So if you're selling flowers, you're most likely your customer would take a decision within a couple of minutes, as compared to if you're selling a house or a real estate agent or mortgage, it might take a couple of weeks or couple of months. So depending upon the kind of business you're into, you need to decide on when to approach your potential customer. So for example, if someone is looking at buying a television, they go to different stages of buying a television on Google. First, you might go and search for, what television should I buy? Should I buy an LCD or an LED or a 3D television? The next step would be to find out, okay, if I'm buying a 3D television, which is the brand I should go for? And finally, after they made their choice, which brand they go for, they're more likely to actually go and search for a specific brand or a specific model number on Google. So if you're a business owner, you're more tempted to get those kind of people coming to your website than someone simply saying, I need LCD television. So if you got a product that you sell online or you provide a service, you have to understand what is the life cycle of your customer from the time they come to your website to the time they take to take a decision. Based on that, you got to take the right kind of approach. What also is important is that, see, I've been talking to small businesses. I've been doing net school for the last 3 years. And when I do net school, I guess a lot of times I go and ask people in the audience as to how many of you all actually spend money doing things like Google AdWords. And quite surprisingly, it's always 10 or 15% of people who actually do that. However, out of those people who do that, what's interesting is that 50% of them find it really worthwhile. The others feel it's a waste of money. So if you plan to use any of pay-per-click advertising like Google AdWords, Yahoo or Facebook advertising, the first thing you have to consider is do your customers first of all shop online? And if they're going to be shopping online, do you have a unique selling point? Because based on that, you can decide on is it worthwhile for me to even spend money on pay-per-click. And what is quite interesting is from all these researchers is that we're getting more and more comfortable shopping online. So we practically moved away from just buying books and DVDs online to buying almost everything online, right from shoes to solar panels to furniture, you name it. We practically shop everything online. So the first step on deciding on whether you're fit to use or you're going to benefit from using AdWords is to understand, do you fall to one of those categories where people tend to shop a lot online? What also is important to understand is that not necessary that every person who comes to your website is going to buy something from you or send you an inquiry, and it actually changes from industry to industry. Okay, so if you're selling electronic items, okay, the conversion rate is really low, because when someone is looking at electronic items, there's so much of options, and it's all driven based mainly on brand and price. So whichever vertical you belong to, the conversion rate will make a difference. So if you plan to, let's say if you want to get, every day you want to get 3 sales online, then depending upon the industry, you might at least have to make sure that 30 or 90 people go to your website every day. So whichever industry you're into, the first thing you're going to decide on, if you're selling something like, travel, okay, the conversion rate, on travel is approximately 2.1%. What it really means that out of 100 people who land up on your website, only 2 of them will actually send you an inquiry. The reason why these conversion rates are going down is mainly because we as website users are becoming extremely impatient. That's that means it goes back to, are you giving the right kind of information to your visitors at the right time? You've got a window of less than 10 seconds to get a person's attention. So if you're spending money on marketing, you got to make sure that you get people engaged in that 10 seconds, and then they take some step which results in an inquiry or a sale. So depending upon, again, the industry that you fall into, you're going to see different levels of success. I've spoken to a lot of businesses who've done pay-per-click. Some of them have been extremely successful, and some of them feel that it's a total waste of money. But there are a lot of factors to look at. If you don't have a unique selling point, why would anyone click on your ad? Or why would even someone bother spending a lot of time looking at your website? So conversion rates are really important for your business. So you have to understand how many people need to go to your website. And if you look at what's happening today, the way we shop or the way people sell has changed a lot. Almost everyone feels the need of having an online presence, either to sell or to get inquiries as a part of their business. Okay, so what's happened is most large companies have gone and taken that transformation. They've realized that the latest trends are to be on the internet, have to be online, to be found on search engines. But small businesses still use some of the old-fashioned way of marketing, which works for a very limited amount of industries. It doesn't work for everyone. The question you got to ask yourself is that how can you reach out to new customers every day? And believe me, online marketing would be the best way to do it. Whether it is optimizing it for organic results, whether it is doing Google AdWords, online marketing is quite effective. You try any of the traditional ways today, the conversion rates have gone really into very small factors. What also is interesting is that, and this is quite strange, when I speak to a lot of businesses, they say most of their businesses come from word of mouth. But actually today, website is becoming a bigger word of mouth for you, because if someone comes to your website, either they get information from your website or they buy from you. If the user experience is good, they're more likely to go and tell 10 of the other friends that you should go and shop from this website. And not only that, it's like most businesses today feel that they're building up an email database. But what interesting to see is that a lot of people today are unsubscribing from email lists that they've actually opt in for. The reason for that is because if you as a company are sending a lot of newsletters to your customers, if you overdo it, it's going to have a negative effect. If you do it and it's always sales oriented, they don't like it. You have to understand that your customers are constantly changing. What they're looking out for is changing. If you try to make it always a sales oriented newsletter, they're more likely to unsubscribe. And it's really important for a business to understand that not to only depend upon your existing customers. You always have to look out for how do I attract new customers to my business. And I think that's where things like pay-per-click can really help any business. The last webinar I did, I talked about search engine optimization, or SEO. Now, it's really good. SEO is really good, but it takes a lot of, it takes a longer time. And not only that, it's really difficult today to optimize for some of the industries. Like if you take something like mortgage, real estate, accommodation, it's really difficult because there are a lot of big players in that industry with deep pockets. So you may not have the kind of marketing spend that these companies have. So on the high end of the business, like the big four banks will have deeper marketing budgets. But if you look at the lower end as well, people like wedding celebrants, wedding car hire, and all those people. Now these businesses totally depend upon their website. So even at the lower end today, it's getting really difficult to optimize your website, because these lower end market or people with a one-man operation, they depend a lot on their website. So all of these businesses are also focusing on optimizing their website. So search engine optimization is a good option, but you should not take it as an only option, because the problem with that is the time to optimize your website is a longer time. And if you got products and services that keep on changing, then that's the problem with search engine optimization, because if you rank some higher for something today, and let's say 1 week down the track you get into something totally different, or you add some new products, it's going to take a couple of months for Google to even take notice of it and put you on top of Google. Not only that, most generic keywords are getting really difficult to optimize. So if you're a small business and if you do not have you don't have the patience to wait for 6 to 12 months, search engine optimization may not be the right option to start with. It is good as a long-term strategy, but you also have a look at how can I drive someone to my website tomorrow, and that's where we start looking at pay-per-click. So let's try to have a better understanding about what is search engine advertising. Okay, in the early 90s, when Google was fairly new, Yahoo was the only company that used to have sponsored listing. So you could pay Yahoo $200 a year, and they would put you right on top. Google, on the other hand, was only building up a large database. Okay, and somewhere around in 1998, they came back with this concept saying, if you pay us 1 cent, we will put you right on top. And what Google then did is got into this pay-per-click segment. Today, that 1 cent is practically become almost 50 cents. So after 10 years, the average cost per click has increased drastically. The reason why the cost per click has increased is not because Google has increased it, is because a lot of businesses have started depending upon this form of marketing. So that's the reason why you would see that the cost per click in certain industries are really expensive. Like, for example, take something like a mortgage broker. The cost per click for mortgage broker is $15 a click, but still a lot of companies are spending money on it. The reason being is that if a mortgage broker gets someone to sign up for their house mortgage, they literally make around maybe anything between $3,000 to $5,000, depending upon the size of the loan. So the end result is really good. So depending upon the kind of products and services that you sell, you got to look at, can you afford to spend money to drive people to your website? And that's what search engine advertising is. Search engine advertising is a way of spending a little money on Google or Yahoo or Facebook and coming in front of potential customers. Now, a lot of people I speak to have done Google AdWords on their own, and believe me, 70% of them get it wrong. And the reason why they get it wrong is mainly because either they have not done the setup properly, or they've just gone and created an account, put in some keywords, written an ad, and waited for a month for things to happen. Okay, and that's the most common problem with most people doing Google AdWords. Almost 70% of them get it wrong. That's because the problem with AdWords is that if you don't do it right, you're wasting your money. Okay. The other thing also is that you have to constantly monitor it. You can't just set up a budget, a daily budget and a monthly budget, and expect that Google will keep pushing your business. You got to understand that it's not that because you're paying money, Google will always put you on top. Google is also concerned about the user experience. So Google looks at your conversion rates. It looks at your click-through rates, which I'll get into later on, and make sure that the people searching on Google get the right kind of information. And in the last couple of years that I've been speaking to small businesses about Google AdWords, I think these are some of the issues that I've come across. Someone saying that my daily budget gets blown quickly. That's a perfect excuse that I get, or complaint that I get from a lot of these people who use AdWords. Now, what you got to understand is that if you got a limited daily budget, then you got to think about, do you want to run your ads for 7 days a week? You might as well run your ad for 3 days a week rather than 7 days a week. Or maybe, if you provide a service where people might only search on a Monday to Friday, then it's no point running your ads on a Saturday or on a Sunday. The other common thing is about things like, ads don't appear like they were supposed to. That's more got to do with how many people actually react to your ad. Unlike an ad in a newspaper, the ads on Google AdWords can be controlled, changed by you on a regular basis. So you have to constantly monitor your ads to see, are you getting any click-throughs? What is the result when someone clicks on your ad? Is it working for you? Are you getting any kind of conversions? So you got to look at all those factors and then decide on whether it works for you or not. One of the other common, I could say, answers I get from people saying is, my company cannot afford more to spend on AdWords. Now, the way you got to look at AdWords is you got to look at as a cost of acquisition. If you hire a salesperson, a salesperson is at least going to cost you $20 an hour. So if you're happy to spend $100 a day on at least on a salesperson to work for you 5 hours in a day, and if you take the same $100 and spend properly on pay-per-click, you'll get 10 times better results. The reason why is not that the salesperson can't do a good job. The biggest advantage with Google AdWords or any of this pay-per-click is that you are coming in front of people who are actually searching for your products and services, as compared to a salesperson doing a cold call. And this form of marketing actually works for businesses with limited resources. Imagine if you run your business on your own. You practically are doing everything. You're providing service, you're providing, selling the product, you are doing your accounting, you're maintaining your website, In between all of that, how much of time can you go out and do business development? Think about, your website as a salesperson, and what you're doing is you're using Google AdWords or Yahoo to actually, provide leads to your salesperson. That means you're getting your website in front of the right kind of people. And apart from that, some of the other issues are the AdWords are becoming expensive. The reason why the ads are becoming expensive, you should take it as a positive note. If the ads are expensive, that means definitely those ads are working for that industry. Otherwise, no one will spend more for those ads. And that's why a lot of people are happy to pay a higher price for some of the keywords. Okay, now this is quite an important decision that you got to take when you consider pay-per-click. You could consider this as a checklist for your business to say, is your business fit to do pay-per-click, or should you consider pay-per-click for your business? And these are some of the reasons you might need to consider. For example, does your business have a unique selling point? Now, when I speak to any small business, I ask them, what's your unique selling point? And imagine if you got a unique selling point, and the person coming to your website will need to spend at least 5 minutes to actually understand why they should consider you. What are the chances that they're going to contact you? As compared to having a unique selling point right at the doorsteps. It's like a retail store, If you got a retail store, and right outside your retail store, if you put in saying, 50% off, the latest range, that's going to attract more people than having that message within the store when someone walks in and you tell them, by the way, we're having 50% sale. So if you got a unique selling point, then the best way to do is to put that on a pay-per-click ad so that people look at that ad and react to it. I can give you a better example. For example, if you're planning to travel to, let's say, Sydney to Melbourne this weekend, you're most likely to go onto Google and search for airfare to Melbourne. Now, you can get two kinds of results. You can get results on top, which we call as sponsored results. And you have organic results where you literally have to click on those results, then go to the website and then find out exactly what is the price of this website, So what happens is that, imagine if on the sponsored listing, if someone has put an ad which says fly to Melbourne this weekend for $29, you're more likely to create that, click on that link, because that's a price advantage that that advertiser is looking at. So if you got a unique selling point, what you should definitely do is that use Google AdWords. Okay. Now, there's someone in the audience talking about having a bad experience with running Google AdWords campaign. And how do I choose a good AdWords provider? Okay. I'll come to that once I've actually gone through the understanding about, what's good in AdWords and why you should consider. So I'll take that question for a later time. I will go through that anyway. But going back to this, whether, is pay-per-click right for me? Okay. The next thing is, imagine if you're carrying stock. Okay. You have to get the products off your shelf life. You can't keep it sitting there in your store for a long time. Pay-per-click is ideal. Especially, let's say, you're doing, your business is seasonal. Imagine if you have a store where you sell, costumes for kids' parties, and you have a lot of stock for Halloween. No one is going to buy Halloween, outfits in April or in Jan or whatever it is. They're more likely to buy it in September or October. Google AdWords is perfect for it. This is the right time to go on to Google and say, Halloween costumes, starting from whatever, $19, or a wide range of Halloween costumes, sorry. The other thing also is, imagine if you've got a large sales team sitting within your organization, but you're struggling to give them good quality leads. Google AdWords is right, it works really well for their business. And you'll see that with a lot of these educational institutes, people who do online universities, they spend a lot of money on Google AdWords because they have a call center sitting with around 5 to 6 salespeople. That call center, imagine if they don't get calls coming in, they don't have anyone to sell to, because you can't just call up anyone and say, do you want to do an online course? So one of the biggest spenders on Google AdWords are these online universities. They spend a lot of money and it works for them. And that's why the cost of, let's say, bidding for a keyword like, certificate for on accounting is gone up drastically in the last 3 to 4 years. The other thing also to look at is actually, a lot of people feel that Google AdWords is expensive. But if you look at it from a business point of view, it's much more cost effective than some of the other formats. For instance, if you have let's say, you do solar panels, you could get a lead for someone to install a solar panel for as low as maybe $10, as compared to hiring a salesperson or put an ad on newspapers. So you have to work out, what's your cost of acquisition, and if you really work the right way, maybe PPC, pay-per-click, could be much more cheaper option. The next thing also to look at is, with the return of investment, So what you have is that you have to measure the return of investment. You need to find out, what is the return of investment? Sorry, I was just looking at another message. What is the return of investment for your business? Because end of the day, your marketing cost could be 5% of your total cost value or 10% of your total cost value. But the best advantage of using something like pay-per-click is that you don't have to wait for a long time. If you start a campaign today, you can see the results tomorrow. And I guess one of the other advantages is that you get better conversions, and not only that, you can target your customers based on the locality or the region that you cater to. So if you provide services for people within Sydney, then you can fine-tune your campaign so that only people within Sydney can see your ads. So if you plan to do, pay-per-click, I think this is a list that you got to go and say, does it meet my requirements? Do I fall into this category? Okay, I was just told by one of my colleagues that some of you people had a wrong link to log on to the webinar, so your name doesn't come up. It'll be great if you could shoot me an email if you want a copy of the presentation, or you want to ask me a specific question and so on. Because I think a lot of you guys have logged in as Karen. Karen is our marketing coordinator, and I think when I look at the list of attendees, there are quite a few Karens in that. So apologies for the slight hiccup with the registration process. Okay, now going to the next slide about why a pay-per-click. If you look at this this particular slide, I'm not sure that's really clear. Let me see whether I can actually enlarge that a bit for you guys. Okay, so for example, I've gone onto Google and searched for iPad 2 price. Now what I've done is that I know I'm looking for an iPad 2, and when I type in iPad 2 price, I'm actually in the market looking at buying one. If you look at the sponsored list on top, it clearly shows that those three companies, which is Apple's iPad 2, the first result talks about delivering your iPad within 24 hours. So that's their marketing message. That's your unique selling point. You look at the second sponsored result, it talks about having a plan at $15 a month. That's their unique selling point. You look at the third one, they talk about giving you a free headset and mic. So the biggest advantage with Google AdWords is that if you got a unique selling point, it's a great way to take it in front of a customer. And if you look at the results down on the organic, what would need to happen is that I would need to basically click on the result, go to the website, then try to find out, go to a specific product or compare a product, look at the pricing. It's a long process. We're becoming extremely impatient. And not only that, the mobile coverage, or the amount of people using internet on the mobile is increased drastically. So imagine if you're using your iPhone, how much of patience would you have to research a product? Okay. What's also interesting is, I don't have the stats right now, but there's a growing percentage of people walking into a retail store and then going onto their iPhone or a mobile device and then doing a research online as they actually are at the retail store. So if you have a price advantage, if you have a brand advantage, or you have got a unique selling point, then Google AdWords is a right way to get someone's attention. And this is how you can actually make it work better. The other thing also to look at is, it's not only Google AdWords. You can sponsor ads on Google, you can sponsor ads on Yahoo, Bing, and you can also sponsor ads on Facebook. The advantage is that if you do it on Yahoo, the cost per click on Yahoo is much lesser than that of Google AdWords. So from a business point of view, if someone clicks on an ad on Google or Yahoo, comes to your website, it's still a lead. But imagine if you had a budget of $20 a day to spend on your pay-per-click, and if there are a lot of people going on to Yahoo searching for your products and services, then it will be wise enough to spend maybe $15 on Google AdWords and $5 on Yahoo. The amount of leads that will come to your website will increase. Apart from that, you can also look at Facebook as another option. Now, the biggest advantage with Facebook is that with Facebook, you can actually target your customers based on the age group and their, the likes and dislikes or whatever. So depending upon the products and services that you offer, you should look at, maybe spending your marketing, budget across these different platforms. So let's look at some of the key advantages of using something like Google, I guess the biggest advantage is that you can measure your return of investment. It's quite simple. If you spend $10 a day, if you're going to get 2 inquiries, if one of them converts, then your cost of acquisition is $10. Okay. Unlike other forms of marketing, like sending brochures, doing mail draws, where it's very difficult to measure did it work or didn't work. Okay. Not only that, you can actually do a lot of options, where you can run a couple of ads which give different messages. You can test the market using Google AdWords. Sometimes people come to me and say, I'm planning to start a new business, I got a new concept, and the cost of designing the website, let's say, is $10,000. I actually advise them, why don't you do a very simple landing page, spend some money on Google AdWords, and see whether is there a market for your products or services. So it's a great platform to test a new product or a service without spending a lot of time and effort in designing a complete website. What's also important is the kind of flexibility that you can get from something like Google AdWords. You can target the right, you can target someone within New South Wales. You can target someone only between, let's say, 6 in the night to 12 in the night or whatever. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Plus, you can turn on, you can turn off a campaign. You can run it for a specific day. You can run it for a specific time. It's really flexible compared to the other forms of marketing. And I think the biggest advantage is that as you start using Google AdWords, over a period of time, you will understand which day is the best day for your marketing, which day you should spend all your money on advertising, and so on. So when you're going to start your campaign, let's say, how do you actually start doing pay-per-click? Before you go and set up an account, there are a couple of things that you need to do. The first thing is you need to decide on what's the objective of your campaign. Are you trying to sell a product, or are you trying to generate leads? Because based on that, your message needs to be different. If you're selling online, then the objective is you got to make the buying process easier. If someone is going and searching for a specific product, when someone clicks on the ad, they should reach that product straight away. You should not take them to your home page. If you're looking at generating leads, you have to give them enough information for them to fill in the inquiry form. Okay. Some businesses, they use the website just to make the phones ring. And if that's the case, then give a good amount of information for someone to take that step, so that once you get the phone call, then your sales team can do the rest. What's really important is to do your keyword research. Just like your optimization, you got to make sure that you're going after the right kind of keywords. So when you're doing Google AdWords, you've got a lot of options within Google where you can do, exact keyword phrases. You can do negative keywords. So you could say, I want everyone searching for a specific product, but not someone using the word cheap, so whether it's cheap web hosting or whatever. It gives you a lot of flexibility. The next important thing is setting up your daily budget. Now, a daily budget is something which will keep on changing based on how you get conversions or how people respond to your business. You also need to look at deciding on what is your unique selling point, because if you do not have a strong marketing message, then this whole process is a waste of time. Next thing to look at is things like, decide on having multiple campaigns. I'll come to that in the next slide and show exactly how this thing works. What also is important is you have to measure your campaign. So you have to set up things like Google Analytics and conversion tracking. Someone did ask me a question earlier about, if I want to, use someone else to do this program for me, how do I know whom should I go to or whatever, because I think they had a bad experience. Now the thing about pay-per-click advertising, again, it's not difficult, but it's amount of time you're happy to spend on your service. Okay. Now Google AdWords has been there for a long time, but a lot of businesses have gone with an AdWords company, tried it for 3 months, and then after 3 months they realize it's not work for them. and for some reason they don't want to go back again. And then the problem with that is not that advert doesn't work. It's mainly because you might gone with a company who were not really transparent, or who didn't really show you the right kind of reports, or didn't actually work properly on your system. There are a lot of people who do Google AdWords in the market. Google themselves have put them to different categories. There are around 7 Google authorized resellers, and around 2,000 agencies who do Google AdWords. Now the difference between these two are that if you go to a Google authorized reseller, that authorized reseller is actually accountable for the amount of money they spend for you. Every month they need to go back to Google and say that they've charged the client X, and Google will verify and actually ask them why they've charged more, if they charge more to the customer. Whereas the other agencies, they're not really accountable for. So there are some players in the market who come and tell you, listen, we will manage AdWords for you. Don't give us any management fee. Google is taking care of us. The fact is, Google doesn't. What they do is that they charge you X amount of dollars, and they only spend a part of it. End of the month, they send you a report, and you have no clue as to where the money is gone. So if you're looking at getting someone else to do it, I think there are a couple of things you got to go and ask your service provider. The first thing you got to ask them, are they an authorized reseller? Okay, if they are, that's great. If they're not, that's still fine. I'm not saying you should not go to them. The next thing you got to ask them is how transparent the reports are, because you need to really know where those reports are coming from. The third thing you got to ask them, whether you get a dedicated account manager, because there are some companies that have got software. You pay them X amount of dollars, they create an account, and the system does it for them automatically and sends you a report. The fact is, if you're going to do that, it's no point going to the company. You can do it yourself using Google AdWords. The next thing you got to ask a provider is that if you have a dedicated account manager, how many accounts does that dedicated account manager handle? If that dedicated account manager is handling 500 accounts and you're one of them, then you know exactly how many seconds or how many minutes that company account manager is spending on your package or on your service. Anyway, going back to this slide, one of the other important things to do is to use Google Website Optimizer. It's a great tool if you plan to do it on your own. And lastly, it's great to have a landing page. So where do you do your keyword research? Now you can actually go to this URL that I've put on the slide, or you can simply go to Google and search for Google External Keyword Tool. What this does is actually tells you the number of searches that happen in a month, and it also tells you what's the average cost per click. So for example, if you look at something like this, the number of searches done for corrosion protection is 3,600 in a month, and the average cost per click for that keyword is $1.20. So what it means is that if this is the keyword that is meant for your business, okay, if you spend let's say around $12 a day, you're guaranteed that at least 12 people who are searching for that keyword will land up on your website. And then based on your business, or based on what you put on your website, your conversions could be anything from 0 conversions to maybe getting 1 lead or 2 lead. Okay, I mean, all you got to do is consider the entire process of driving people to your store. So once someone comes into the store, then it's the salesperson in the store who's going to make a difference. The same thing goes with your business. Things like search engine optimization, Google AdWords can only drive people to your website. Okay, the moment they come to your website, the actual selling normally happens either via the phone or what offers you have on your website. So depending upon that, you got to make sure that you're giving them the right kind of message. So keyword research is really important. The next thing you would normally look at would be in terms of let's look at what's the next important thing is to work on your daily budget. Now, it's really important first to decide on, do you want to advertise daily, or do you want to do it 3 days a week or 4 days a week? The reason why you do less number of days a week is mainly if you got a lower budget, because you rather spend $25 a day than spending $5 a day for 5 days. Because at $25 you might be able to get 20 people to your website, as compared to at $5 where you might only get 5 people to your website. The chances of 25 people coming to your website might result in 3 leads, but the chances of getting a lead from 5 people is very unlikely. So depending upon your budget, you can decide on how many days, or maybe depending upon the kind of business you're into. If you do things like commercial cleaning, I don't think anyone searches for commercial cleaning on a Saturday or a Sunday. They're more likely to search on a Monday to Friday. So the way you work out your daily budget is first decide on what's the average cost per click. Then decide on what is your conversion rate. That means, do you need 10 new people to come to your website or 20 new people to come to your website? Based on that is how you decide your daily budget. And that daily budget is something which you need to view it or review it once a week and see how is your conversion. Is it working fine or not working fine, and so on. The next thing, apart from your daily budget, is what you got to look at is more about in terms of the using the platform that Google gives you. Now, Google has got a tool called as Google Website Optimizer. Now, this is a tool which is again free. The great thing about using this tool, it helps you a lot in terms of understanding how to improve your conversion, how to increase your customers spending more time on your website. It's like a tool that will help you improve the quality of your campaign. Okay, but as I said, you can't just set up the campaign once and check it once a week or once a month. It's not going to work for you. If you do not have the time, then you might as well get someone else to do it. But don't just set up a campaign and expect things to happen on its own. You're wasting your money. You rather pay a little bit more money and get someone else to do it for you if you don't have the time, or you do not want to learn this process yourself. But you have to understand there's a lot of competition online. Having an online presence or just advertising will not give you conversions. You have to think about what will improve that conversion. So you got to spend a good amount of time. You have to spend at least 3 to 4 hours in a week working on your Google AdWords campaign. That's really important to fine-tune it and get a better result out of what you're doing. I might be running 10 minutes more than the normal time. I hope that's okay with all of you guys, because I guess I'm trying to cover a lot within 60 minutes, so I might go beyond 60 minutes, maybe another 10 minutes, if that's okay with all you guys. You're happy to leave the webinar at 1 p.m. Setting up a PPC campaign, again, is quite important that you follow the right kind of process. You understand exactly what needs to be done. The first step is setting up a campaign, logging on to Google AdWords, setting up a daily budget, then deciding on what is the maximum cost per click you got to pay. Now, when you do your Google AdWords research, Google tells you what's the cost per click you should go at. So if Google tells you the cost per click is $10, okay, it's no point saying you will pay only $1, because in that case Google is not going to display your ads at all. You don't have to do $10. You can do maybe $8, $9. Okay, even if you say $25, it doesn't mean Google will take $25 off you. Okay, but it's important that you go closer to what the expected cost per click is. Otherwise, Google will have no incentive to display your ads, because there are other advertisers who are happy to spend that amount of money. And end of the day, Google is there to make money. So, why would they just simply put your ad? But a lot of times, people talk about, who comes on the first listing of Google AdWords, and it's not always the cost of the ad. I'll come to that in the next slide. What's also important is to write ads which would attract customers. So have a unique selling point. Talk about a price advantage. Talk about a brand. Talk about the features that you have. If that works, then only will people click on your ad. The next thing, very important, is to basically track, monitor, and modify your campaign regularly. If you do not do that, it's no point running these campaigns, because then you'll never get any conversions, or you'll never see any improvement in your campaign. And what's also important is to consider what we call as landing pages. I'll come to landing pages with a quick case study on the next couple of slides. So when you set up a Google AdWords campaign, it actually has three different parts to it. I think the first thing you do is you set up a campaign. So in this case, you could create a campaign for shoes. Once you create a campaign, then you go and create ad groups. So you could have different kinds of shoes: tennis shoes, walking shoes, running shoes. So that's where you create an ad group. Now once you create an ad group, the next thing you would do is you would say, for tennis shoes, what are the keywords that I should go after? That keywords you normally will come from your keyword research. And once you've done that, then you'll write an ad which actually talks about that. So if your ad group is about tennis shoes, then your ad should only talk about tennis shoes, because that's what people want to see. Okay, if you put something totally different, it doesn't work for you. So this is how you actually structure your AdWords campaign. So you set up a campaign, then you set up groups within it. Then for each group you assign a set of keywords and write ads, to basically display those ads whenever someone searches those relevant keywords. Now what actually makes it work? It's not the cost per click. What you got to look at is there's something called as quality score. It's a measure from 0 to 10. So if your ad has got a quality score of 10, that according to Google, anyone who clicks on that ad is going to be happy with what they see. So the people who come on the first page of sponsored listing, or on the first position of the sponsored listing, are not the people who pay the highest, but the people who've got a better quality score. So quality score is actually a combination of 4 factors. It's a combination of what is the maximum cost per click you're happy to pay for your ad. It's your click-through rate. That means in the last, let's say, 4 weeks, if every day Google has displayed your ad 100 times, and if 50 people have clicked on it, that means the conversion, your click-through rates are better. So higher the click-through rates tells Google is that your marketing message is spot on. People like your advertisement. Then is the quality of the ad. That means what is a kind of whether it's a landing page or whether there's a good call to action. Ideally speaking, when you write an ad, it should include the keyword that you're trying to sponsor. That's a good way of doing it. And the next and the most important thing is load time. Okay, imagine you click on an ad and it takes 30 seconds to load. You're most likely to hit the back button. So Google also considers your load time. And that's why today a lot of businesses try to do what is called as a landing page. So rather than taking them to a website, they take their visitors to a landing page and they try to capture information. So you need to work on quality score. Now the quality score is something you can check for every campaign when you log in into your AdWords campaign or your AdWords account. It'll give you the quality score for every campaign that you run. The next thing you look at is more about better landing pages. That means you want someone to react to your advertisement. It's no point advertising for a keyword and then sending someone to your home page and expecting them to search for what they were initially searching for. So if you're going to spend money on Google AdWords, it's really important that you have a good landing page and a good call to action. Okay, someone did ask me about the difference between the cost per click and cost per impression. Let me just go back to that question. Okay, now the thing about cost per impression is about creating visibility. A cost per click is someone actually showing you an initiative that they're interested in what you do. So it's like having a retail store. You can put in you can put a banner on your store and say we are on sale, or you can actually literally give out someone a mail out at the entrance saying these are the items which are on sale. So a cost per click will actually give you a better conversion rate as per cost per impression, because cost per impression is just like a banner advertisement or a hoarding. People don't react to it, but the moment someone clicks on your ad, then the response is much better. I hope that makes sense. Oh, absolutely. But if you have more visibility, you can get clicks. But I think it's what you got to understand is that more than getting clicks is getting the quality of clicks. Okay. If the cost per impression is cheap for your business, and if you feel that you need to make sure that you got a tight budget, it would work in some instances. But if you look at best practices, there's always been a push towards cost per click, cost per acquisition, and so on. These are the new trends when it comes to paid advertising. Okay, now we talked about landing pages. What's important is trying to drive people to a specific page. So imagine, let's look at some of the examples. Now, there's a website called as 1300 Cruise. What they do is they have a large collection of cruise services. So they basically are a large directory of different cruise providers that they put all together. This particular company, 1300 Cruise, they have been doing Google AdWords on their own, and they should spend around $3,000 a month. The average cost per click literally used to be around $7 a click. So they used to spend money on that, and then after 3 months they realized that they're almost $10,000 down, but they hardly got any sales out of it. What used to happen is, let's say you go onto Google and search for Kimberly Cruise, and their ad will come up. The moment the ad used to come up, what people used to see is the following. They literally get sent to the home page. So imagine you're planning to take a cruise to Kimberly. Okay, the moment you click on the ad, you used to land up on the home page, and then you are kind of supposed to go to the cruise finder part and select the destination, select the date you want to travel, and select the cruise type you want to go for, and so on. Now, for someone who's going for a cruise for the first time, may not even know which cruise liner to choose. All they know is the location and the date that they want to go for. So imagine if I go onto this website and say I want to go to Kimberly, let's say in the next 6 months time, but I know where I'm going to go from, but I don't know which cruise line is good for me. So I will go and select one of these functions, and then the next page that I used to get sent to is a page like this. Now if you look at this is a result that comes after you click on the home page. It gives you a list of a lot of information. Now there might be around close to 25 different cruises on this. So what used to happen is people used to click on their ad, come to the home page, do a search, come to this page with so much of information, and don't go any further because it's too confusing. So what I recommended them is, rather than taking them to this website, I said, instead of taking them to that website or your website, the best thing to do is to take them to a specific landing page which talks only about Kimberly Cruises. So rather than taking them to the website, what we made them do is take them to this specific page. Now the user experience was totally different. Imagine you search for taking a cruise to Kimberly, You come to this page, it's got a nice slideshow. It talks about 5 reasons why you should consider 1-300 cruise. There's a telephone number to contact. It tells you what are their special offers, and there's an inquiry form right at the bottom, and so on. The moment this landing page got implemented, within 4 weeks, they saw a drastic change with how these things work. They were getting more and more qualified leads. The phone started ringing. So it worked for Kimberly. Then moving forward, they actually started doing, landing pages for each and every other area. So they did one for, the Antarctica. They did one for European charter, and so on. So if you got if you plan to use Google AdWords, and if there's a lot of information on your website, the last thing you want to do is confuse people. So in that case, a good thing to do is send people to a specific website. And this really works well. Even if you look at the real estate agents today, what they tend to do is that they don't plan to put 25 photographs of a property on their listing. They only put 4 or 5 of them. Because imagine if there are 25 photos of a specific property. As a person, you might like 24 of them, but you may not like the view from the backyard or whatever. You're more likely not to call up the real estate agent. But if there are only 4 of them, it's enough for someone to pick up the phone and call up the real estate agent, and then the salesperson does his job. So if you plan to use Google AdWords, if you want to get better conversions, then creating a landing page is a great way to reach out to people. And these are some of the examples that really work. Like this website, for example, they do window tinting for cars. If you're looking at getting your car's window tinted, you're not going to spend 15 minutes reading a website. All you want to know is which areas do these people provide, what kind of products they use, what are the unique selling point, and how do I get a price. And believe me, the landing page concept works for industries where you want the phones to ring or you want someone to send you an inquiry. Similarly, depending upon, like this one is for car parking. Again, works perfectly fine. If you're looking at parking your car at the airport, a great thing to do is, if you got a price advantage, is do Google AdWords and say airport parking, $75 for 4 days parking. Someone clicks on that ad, they come to this page. All they want to know is, okay, where is the parking located? Okay, are there any other hidden cost? And you just sign up. As simple as that. Similarly for pool fencing. So depending upon the industry, it could vary. Sometimes your website needs to have a lot of information because people do research. Then maybe landing page is not the right concept. Okay, you got to ask yourself and say, do I need to give enough information for people to come and react with me? Based on that, you can actually decide on what needs to be done. Okay, great. I've just gone overboard by about 10 minutes. I took a couple of suggestions from the last webinar. One of them was to add more slides, so which I did. And I try to speak less. I got a habit of speaking a lot, so I hope it was still okay. Now, this is more of an insight to how you can use PPC, but if you feel that you need some guidance or whatever, or you do not know whether this works for you, I'm happy to speak to any of you guys. You can give me a call, and at least I can advise you what you should do, and then you can decide on what's the next step for you, whether it's suitable for your business or not. If you would like to get a copy of the webinar, shoot me an email and I can send you a copy of the webinar. I've also got the webinar recorded, so if you want to refer back to the webinar, I think in the next 3 days time we would have a link on our website where you can download the webinar. Apart from that, just as a part of this webinar series, we're going to be having another webinar about improving your e-commerce store conversions. That I think is on the 26th of October. So if you feel that this webinar was worth your time and you've learned something on it, I guess we would be constantly doing these kind of webinars. And I'm happy to help any of you guys. If you need some kind of free advice, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. I can recommend you what's the best for your business, whether you should even consider doing AdWords or not, or so on. Thank you everyone for your time, and see you all next time.